Greetings all and welcome to Esoteric Babble. This episode's babbling is going to center around card 18 of the major arcana of the tarot, the moon. The main idea of the moon card is that of reflected light. Reflected light meaning that the light by which we are seeing is not coming from the original source, but rather comes by some indirect means, reflected off some other object. This means that what we see is not fully illuminated, but only partially so. We can think of nighttime. It could be a full moon. That moon, as bright as it is only reflecting the light of the sun. The sun will be our next discussion. That is the true source, the Gnosis, the one absolute reality beyond our senses and sense realm. So the moon, because it is reflecting light, we are seeing in less than optimal conditions. And what we see is a dimmer world, and we are not likely to see things as they are, or the things that are. In Greek, that is ta onta, and we might even take that to mean we can't see reality. Again, we need Gnosis to see reality. And the issue here is that the moon, the reflected light, actually represents our world of sense, our world of becoming and change, of coming into being and passing away. Another word for this world is one we've talked about before, I think, but it's also come up in our discussion on God is a delusion, or God is an illusion. That's a little tongue-in-cheek, but you can see that episode. Maya is like a kind of a trick or a magic, sort of a magic, maybe you could say magic spell, but it is sort of a deception. And that is our world. If we take what we see at face value, or if we take it to be as it appears. So a good example of this is given in Vedantic teaching. And that is one of a coiled up rope that you might see in the evening or at night. Now, especially if you live in a place where there are snakes, you'll really understand this. If you walked out and saw a coiled up rope and you thought it was a snake, of course you would be slightly afraid, especially if it was real close to you. But upon further examination, you would discover that it is indeed just a rope. And Shankaracharya mentions that it's, in fact, what you need is this knowledge to overcome this deception. That is exactly what the Buddha has said, that it is avidya that gives rise to this whole world, this whole samsara, actually. It's avidya pachaya sankhara, or because of ignorance, we get all this compounded existence, maybe. So again, this world is delusion, agnosia. It would be the opposite of gnosis. Lack of true knowledge. Now, something we need to point out, and this is also kind of covered by the Buddha in the Majjhima Nikaya, the first sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya. And the idea is that you might be exceptionally brilliant. You could be the most gifted mathematician or physicist or economist, linguist the world has ever known. But that does not mean that you are operating outside of this realm of Maya. So we have to include in this reflected light intelligence. Intelligence does not actually get us out of this world. It can point us in the right direction. We, of course, are actually seeking Gnosis. We actually are seeking a special kind of knowledge, something that goes beyond our typical cognitive states, our typical ideas of this and that, and any sort of categories. As I said, that's coming in the episode on the sun. The point is that intelligence has nothing to do with kind of superseding or escaping this realm of Maya. Of course, we can use our learning to point us in the right direction, but you could be a, quote, run-of-the-mill ordinary person and be absolutely brilliant, or a, quote, dollard. It doesn't have anything to do. Being an ordinary person would be someone who has not begun to accept the fact that we live in a realm of illusion or delusion. So some other things to think about there is, this would also apply to any realm of existence whatsoever, from the most horrid, hellish state of existence all the way up to the most heavenly and divine. Any state of being is part of this Maya. If we have not transcended that, we are still part of this journey from one life to another. And that is sometimes seen, I think, like in the Rider-Waite between these two towers, sort of representing duality, another way that we experience this. Some people call it polarity consciousness, or just that's how we experience our world. Between the two towers, you see some water, and the water could represent maybe the stream of consciousness, or the astral realm, that which travels from one life to another. So these are the sorts of things that the moon it covers. The moon tarot card is giving us symbolically this very good way to understand that our world is one of illusion, and its true source is not to be found here. Just like the true source of the light of the moon is not from the moon. And getting back to this another good idea, or not a good idea necessarily, but a good way of understanding how intelligence needs to be sort of put aside, or our standard quest for just answers to questions, is my favorite in Mumonkan, number 1, the great collection of Zen koans by Mumon. The famous one where someone asked Jiaozhou, I believe, does even a dog have Buddha nature? And when I say someone, it was some other monk. And Jiaozhou says, no. And the point about that no is that it's not an answer to the question. It's an answer to the questioning. And that is another good way of understanding that when we seek answers, when we want to know something about why does it rain, or why do things, why does an object fall, or orbits, or anything you want to know about. It could be trivial, it could be sort of elevated, whatever sort of knowledge we're after. That is all part of this realm of Maya. It doesn't mean it's not important. Heart transplants are a part of Maya, but it's great that we have them. It's great that we have medicine. I'm not trying to downplay any of that or any scientific understanding. But for the spiritual aspirant, we have to understand that sort of knowledge, no matter how specialized or elevated or how developed, will not lead us in the right direction, and is actually not the correct vehicle for obtaining the not the reflected light, but for finally trying to connect with the ultimate source of all of that. And for that episode, please stay tuned. And with a heartfelt wish for an end of suffering to all beings in any realm whatsoever, peace and peace and peace.